It is the first of its kind in terms of how we actually get after the threat that is Chinese precursors, which are used to make fentanyl, which is used to kill tens of thousands of Americans a year.
New research shows how Mexican cartels mass-produce fentanyl with chemicals that are sourced in China, then distribute the pills in the United States. Throughout the United States, many times the fentanyl-laced pills are in counterfeit drugs, as you just heard, like oxycodone or Aleve, and then smuggled into the United States.
The pharmaceutical industry usually operates behind the sterile gleam of glass and steel, protected by a labyrinth of patents and high-level lobbying. But yesterday, at 4:30 a.m., that sterile image was shattered. We aren't talking about a regulatory audit or a surprise inspection. This was a coordinated tactical strike by the FBI and ICE on a major pharmaceutical distribution hub linked to foreign interests. As tactical units breached the perimeter, they weren't just looking for counterfeit medicine or expired ingredients. They were looking for human beings.
Put the gun down! Son of a...
The imagery captured by local onlookers was chilling, not because of what was visible, but because of what was being hidden. This wasn't a basement operation. This was a sprawling corporate facility. According to the preliminary federal report, the raid uncovered a high-stakes trafficking network that utilized legal pharmaceutical transit routes to move vulnerable minors across international lines. When 58 officials, from floor managers to corporate directors, are led away in federal custody, you have to realize that this isn't a small-scale crime. This is a systemic betrayal. Before we dive into the specific delivery manifests that the FBI used to map this network, I need you to make a decision. In an age where corporate narratives are bought and paid for, do you want the sanitized PR version, or do you want the raw investigative receipts? If you believe that no corporation, no matter how large, is above the law, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. We are building a community that demands accountability over optics. Join us. The shock wasn't just in the raid itself, but in the silence that followed from the mainstream media. To understand why this was allowed to flourish, we have to look at the exact moment the power shifted. For years, this pharmaceutical giant operated with what we call regulatory immunity. They had the right lobbyists in D.C. and the right charitable foundations in the community. They were considered too big to fail and too essential to question. But the power dynamic flipped the second a whistleblower from within the logistics department handed over a series of encrypted communications to the DOJ.
This is a Chinese operation. The drug cartels are the junior partners. The precursor chemicals, as about everybody now knows, come from China.
The reversal was absolute. These officials, who were used to being treated as captains of industry, suddenly found themselves as defendants in a federal trafficking case. The same corridors that once held meetings about market expansion were now being treated as a crime scene. The expectation was that their corporate legal shield would protect them from any real scrutiny. The reality, 58 arrest warrants that their attorneys couldn't make disappear. This is the moment the untouchables realize that federal jurisdiction doesn't stop at the lobby of a 500 company. Pattern recognition is the most dangerous tool a citizen can possess. When we look back at the last 24 months, this pharmaceutical facility had been cited for logistical irregularities 3 times. Each time, they paid a small fine and called it a clerical error. But let's look at the earlier examples. We saw similar patterns in the 2024 logistics shadow case, where cargo containers marked for medical supplies were found to be transporting high-value contraband. Notice the strategy. Use a high-volume, high-essential industry like medicine as a Trojan horse. Because the world needs medicine, these trucks and planes are rarely searched with the same intensity as standard freight. It wasn't an accident that 58 officials were involved. It was a feature of the business model. By embedding the trafficking ring inside a legitimate pharmaceutical supply chain, they created a secret zone within the legal economy. Think about how easy it is to hide in plain sight when you have a billion-dollar logo on the door. If this level of institutional corruption makes you realize why we need independent analysts who aren't afraid of corporate lawsuits, show your support by hitting the like button. It tells the algorithm that this community values the truth more than corporate sponsorships. Let's get this to 15,000 likes for the children whose stories are finally being told. Let's look at the undeniable contradictions. We have a public statement from the CEO just 3 months ago where he claimed his company was a global leader in humanitarian ethics. Now, contrast that with the FBI seizure of internal documents that labeled certain human cargo as biomaterial grade A. The receipts don't lie. Federal investigators found a double ledger system, one ledger for the public pharma business and a second encrypted ledger for the shadow network. We're looking at direct quotes from intercepted emails where officials discuss the turnover rate of these miners in terms of unit efficiency. This is the most devastating way to dismantle their defense, using their own corporate jargon against them. They didn't just break the law, they dehumanized their victims into a spreadsheet. Why did they think they could get away with it? Because they understand the complexity trap. They know that if they make their operations complex enough with shell companies, foreign subsidiaries, and proprietary logistics software, most investigators will simply get bored or overwhelmed. They also counted on the professional aura. When people see a man in a lab coat or a woman in a $3,000 suit, they assume integrity. They use their status as a life-saving pharma company as a moral shield. It's a brilliant, albeit cynical, media strategy. If you're the one saving lives with one hand, people won't look at what you're doing with the other. They relied on your trust in the institution to mask the rot within it. We're entering the final, most revealing part of this investigation. If you've stayed with me for nearly 8 minutes, it's because you're not looking for a one-hit viral wonder. You're looking for a recognizable, high-status narrative style that tells the truth. Subscribe right now to help us reach our goal of 1 million truth seekers. We are building a community that values logic over corporate labels. Join us. Zoom out with me. This raid isn't just about one company. This is an intellectual analysis of how global power structures operate in the 21st century. We're seeing a rise in hybrid criminality, where legitimate corporate entities provide the infrastructure for international trafficking rings. This is about media psychology. When the mainstream news calls this a isolated corporate scandal, they're trying to prevent you from seeing the systemic level. When corporate interests and criminal networks merge, the victim is always the most vulnerable. This raid should be the catalyst for a total reevaluation of how we monitor global pharma. If we can't trust the people making our medicine, who can we trust? As the 58 officials wait for their federal court dates, the pharma facility is draped in yellow tape. The secret zone has been exposed, and the miners have been placed in genuine protective custody. The raid began as a shock to the system, but it ends with a sharp insight. The biggest threats aren't always in the shadows. Sometimes they're right under the brightest lights. The opening moment of Tactical Breach wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning of a conversation about where our loyalty should lie, with the institutions or with the truth. My question for the community today is this: at what point does corporate growth become human exploitation? I want to hear your most thoughtful takes in the comments below. If you value accountability and want to stay updated as this federal investigation escalates, subscribe and check out our previous deep dive on the Shadow Logistics Network linked on the screen. Your engagement is the only thing that keeps this channel independent. Stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next investigation.